Hey everyone, welcome out to episode 69 of a Nerd Name Mark podcast. Very nice. And it just so happens, irony, I decided to finally start doing video versions of the podcast, and it just so happens to be episode 69 at the same time. I'm just saying it's just a coincidence. This was not planned, although it's a happy accident. So yeah, if you're listening to this on your podcast listening platform choice, I'm also recording a video for the YouTube channel, so there's now video versions of the podcast going forward. It was something I was gonna try and get done sooner, but I'm actually back at work. I'm working again. I'm a part of society. I'm no longer stuck in this apartment for days on end, like just binge eating everything in my refrigerator and then just watching Netflix and Amazon Prime videos and just playing video games and deciding not to shower. I actually shower every day now. And yeah, so it's my first full week working again. Last week was like part week. So, I'm glad the Royal Rumble episode is doing really well. It was nice to kind of have that as a break while I got everything situated to kind of return back to normal podcasting episodes and structure to it. So, yeah, and I'm going to talk about some other things during housekeeping of other projects that are finally ready. They've been in the oven long enough, set it to 375. They've been roasting, they're ready, they're good to go. So, new content in the form of audio. No video for those yet, but there will be down the road. I'm going to touch on that in the housekeeping. But for those of you who are first time listeners or your first time watching on YouTube and you haven't listened to the audio version of the podcast, I structure it certain ways. I do like a weird little opening where I kind of talk about what I'm going to, the main topic. And this episode, honestly, I don't really have a main topic. It's more or less my collecting habits lately and how I display and products I use to kind of, keep, if you're watching the video, you're really seeing like a snippet of my collection. You're seeing a corner of my pseudo office area, but there's a lot more around the apartment of how I display things. So I'm going to go over products I use, how I store my comics, organization. That's going to be kind of touched on in the main topic, but not fully in depth because I am saving that for when I have Daryl back on, Resident Daryl, who was on for the Resident Evil one. I've been on his podcast for the Three Jokers talk and other horror stuff as well. So if you haven't already, check out the Loot Bros Comic Cast and the Loot Bros podcast also. Just a plug for my friend over there. They're killing it. So that being said, how I break everything down is I do my little intro, I talk about things, and then I go over my comic books that I pulled this week, and then I go over my video games I've been playing or any new games I bought. Then I go into little tangents about the topics. And so, first time listeners, first time viewers, because it's the first video, my comic book pull list, how I do my subscription, because my comic book shop is really like subscription based now. So very rarely can I walk in and get like a new comic off the shelf for the location I go to. Now they have 3 or 4 locations, so their main headquarters location, I can actually go in there and get stuff off the new release wall. And both are same distance from my apartment. One's like 2 miles, and the other one's like a mile, 1.2 miles in the other direction. So it's like not far for me to go. So I haven't gone over to the main location yet to get anything new for comics, but I did get all my pull list stuff. And because of work and this and that, I pull my comics every 2 weeks. So every other week of the podcast episode, instead of me talking about new comics I got, I will talk about comics I've been reading, because I do get a lot of trades in between. You can't, if you're watching the video, you can't really see because behind me on the shelf over here is all my trades. So with that being said, let's talk about the comics. Because it's been a bit since I've talked about new comics I've got. And right at the bat, we're going to make it easy on you. We're going to make it easy on you because connecting covers, anyone who knows, that's my kryptonite in the world. So we got Power Rangers number 3 and Mighty Morphin number 3. Look at these beautiful. Okay, let's see how we do this. First time doing a video. Look at this. Oh, so good. Now, anyone who's a regular listener to the podcast, I am all about Power Rangers. Have been forever. I mean, I got my Lightning Collection stuff on display in the boxes because I haven't taken them out yet. I got vintage figures, from like 1993, 1994. I gotta move this way so you go right way so you can see. You gotta see it. There's King Sphinx. That's from 1993. So yeah, I love Power Rangers. I'm really digging Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers Split. I was really weary of it, when it was announced that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, first off, Go-Go ended. And then they were like, okay, well, we're going to split Mighty Morphin Power Rangers into two comics, Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. I don't know how long this split is going to last and when they're ultimately going to, you know, combine back into just Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for a comic. But I dig it. I like it. And like I said, I don't spoil things. I do have a separate RSS feed, which is going to have start having reviews and spoilers for comics when I read them. So, but yeah, it's just the connecting covers are killing my wallet because I'm getting all the connecting covers. Then I do get a lot of the virgin covers, which is something like this, where there's no label, nothing on it. It's just, boom. That's what I got. And for, I believe that is actually the Mighty Morphin #3 virgin cover variant. So I just don't for Power Rangers, like I don't know, like I talk about it so much, but I'm trying to spoil it. It's actually a really good run. I'm very impressed with where it's going. I don't know when everything's going to culminate into another big, huge event because let's face it, they like their events. We had, Necessary Evil, we had Shattered Grid, we had Beyond the Grid. So we're kind of due for them to build up to another crossover event. And I hope it's not so large scale like Shattered Grid was. Necessary Evil was nice and felt really like condensed to an extent when you compare it to Shattered Grid. And then I have my Mega Man, another Boom comic, Mega Man #5, I believe. Another virgin cover. All my Mega Man covers are virgin covers, so there's no. I always like the full art covers, especially for Mega Man. I have a few on the wall over here that are just so good. And then I know it's an older release; it's not brand new, but I finally got the final issue of Deceased Dead Planet #7 of 7. Let's try and not get that in the light. Like, I gotta work on my lighting. So that's, obviously, now I haven't read that run. So I waited because I knew there were 7 issues. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get all 7, and then I'm gonna sit down and read them. So now that I have issue 7 and I have the weekend off, guess what? I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna read all 7 of those issues, and I can't wait because that's how I am as a comic book collector. I always pull runs like that. Like if it's 4-issue run, 5-issue run, 7, etc. Like I pull all of them and then I sit down and read them because 1 issue a month. I forget sometimes what happens in comics. Like as much of a big comic collector and reader and fan of comics I cannot have a general conversation where I can wholeheartedly pull like specific issue numbers and this and that. Like I can tell you things that happened. I can't tell you what issue they happened in. And so yeah. But one of my comics that I've been gushing over since House and Powers of X is Hickman's X-Men run, and I got my #17. Big Storm fan, so obviously the Storm cover was needed. Like this, like I love Storm. One of my favorite X-Men. Like I know, and obviously I've been outspoken on my disdain for Wolverine and how he's always just at the forefront of things. And I've always been a Storm and a Cyclops fan. I dealt with so much crap being a Cyclops fan because some people are like, oh, Cyclops is trash. And then a lot of people are surprised by this, honestly, that I am a huge Archie Comics fan. And I don't know why that surprises people. I don't know if I don't give off the vibes that like I hit the windscreen thing. I don't know if I don't give off the vibes that I'm an Archie fan. Like I have a whole bunch of first prints from the 60s that were my mom's actually, which I already did an episode. If you go back and listen to it, I did a whole thing of the betrayal of my mom because like I live on the West Coast, I'm from the East Coast. When we went back home for a wedding, I was, my mom was like, "Oh yeah, I found some comics that I had," and it was like literally like early to late 60s, like almost a full Archie run, like and not just Archie. It was like Archie comics. It was like Archie, Sabrina, this and that, and I'm like, you have like #1s in here. You have key issues, and they're all like mint. And they weren't even boarded and bagged, and there was no discoloration. I don't know. She like stored them all in a big, like almost like a freezer bag, just stacked on top of each other in multiple bags. And So they were never boarded and bagged, but they were like in really great condition, and I was shocked. And then I made some deals, obviously, because I wanted them for my collection, and she said no. So after some wheeling and dealing, and I was only back on the East Coast for like 3 days, and I only got to see my family for like a day and a half. And I spent a majority of the time just trying to convince mom, like, let me have these Archie comics. Let me have the Sabrina comics. Like, I'm a huge Archie comics fan. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know you liked Archie. I'm like, I have a whole box full of double digests, and I've been pulling Archie comics since around like issue, what, like 400 or 500, and I've been pulling them consistently. So, another one I picked up, it's a one shot. It's the Riverdale one, the Southside Serpents, because they do a lot of Riverdale crossover stuff, like one shots. And I was like, you know what, like, as much as I'm not caught up on Riverdale, because I did enjoy the first two seasons, because just TV, I'm really bad with catching up on TV and keeping up with television shows. But yeah, Archie Comics, so I was like, oh, okay, one shot. I even have some trades that I like, hardcovers I found recently that I picked up that I talked about in a previous episode. I do enjoy my Archie Comics. And I'm a sucker for one shots and like 5 issue runs. Like there was like Archie and Sabrina was a 5 issue run, Archie and Katie Keene. Then they did like Jughead Time Police, like stuff like that, like Archie versus Predator 1 and 2, which I did find a hardcover of Archie versus Predator. I got it for $7, mint, love it. And speaking of, not really one shots, but going into like ones, I got my future state for Shazam. Now, here's the thing with DC, I don't pull a lot of DC. I've been very adamant about that. Like, other than, the three Jokers, this, that, I don't pull a lot of DC. I wait for trades, honestly, because there's just so much always going on in DC. And when you think about all the times everything has changed over, I mean, we had Brightest Day, Blackest Night, New 52s, Rebirth, Futures at, like, there's so much stuff. And then, like, the death metal one. I don't pull any of that stuff. I wait for trades because it's just easier for me and it saves a lot of space. Like, I honestly don't want, like, too many comics, if that makes any sense. Even though I have, like, thousands of comics, I just don't want too many. Like, I pull what I read. I don't pull to sell anymore, which I've had a whole long episode talking about that. Like, I'm a collector and a reader and a fan. What I pull, I read. Unless it's something I know is going to be like, I need, that's going to have some value to it, I'll get it. But other than that, like, everything I get, I read. And continuing the trend of 4 issue runs, because it's the last comic I picked up. I didn't pick up a lot. Like, my pull list is very minimal. I audited my pull list when the pandemic started last year, because I didn't know how distribution for comics were going to work. I didn't know how stores were going to shut down, and honestly, I didn't know when I was going to work again. I didn't know how I was going to get money. So I was like, what's important to me, what I want to read. And one of the things I like, and I'm not a big fan of tie-in like comics that go into like TV shows or movies or games, but Stranger Things Science Camp #4 dropped. So that's 404. There you go, there's a cover. So now I got #4. Guess what I'm going to be doing? You guessed it. I'm going to sit down and read that comic this weekend. I have so much comics to check on this weekend. And that's it for comics. Hold on, let me put these back. I'll put them out here for now. They're safe. They're safe. They're safe-ish. Safe adjacent, because I'm going to put them back up on the shelf after and read them. Now, so that's it for comics. Like, I'm going to be reading a lot over the weekend. So I usually just talk about, what comics I pull. Sometimes I'll gloss over, like, what happens in them when major arcs go on. So I'm working on this RSS feed. I got it done. I'm getting logos made up, graphics done for it. I am going to try and start having them go live this month in February. It's a short month, obviously. My birthday is the last day of the month. So I'm going to try my hardest to start getting everything going, so the reviews / spoiler RSS feed of the show will be live. So if you hear a comic or this and that I talk about that I pulled, or a game, because it's not going to be just comics, it'll be games, movies, this and that. That's the feed where they'll be at. Because I did my Wonder Woman episode, had a lot of positive feedback, but some people are like, well, I didn't fully listen to it because I didn't want the movie spoiled. And I'm like, I get that. So that's why I was like, I got to make that a different feed, because I don't want to, one, accidentally let a Freudian slip of a spoiler come out, and then, someone gets something spoiled for them. I hate spoilers. I hate things spoiled for me. I don't want to spoil things for other people. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse when I say that, because I say that a lot on the podcast. So that's it for comics. Not a lot, picked up. That's why I was like, I justified getting the Virgin variant of Mighty Morphin 3, because, hey, It was a little extra, not cover price, but I was like, you know what? I need it for the collection because the amount of like I have a short box. It's not out here. So from BCW Supplies, I get a lot of the graphic short boxes only because it's easy to organize. My Avengers graphic one is all Avengers comics. My Boom Studios Power Ranger graphic short box, guess what? All Power Ranger comic books in it. It makes it so much easier for me. Even though I do want to switch over to the bins, so that way there I can have them organized with the tab by letter and name of comics, and also they have the ones that hold your graded or slabbed comics, as we like to say. So I need to get one of those as well because I got a lot of graded comics that are kind of just not gonna lie. I have a dresser drawer that has no clothes in it. It just has graded comics just stacked on top of each other and other like merch and freebies I get from conventions. But that's it. That's it for comics. And now we got to go into video games because obviously I play video games. So I haven't been streaming much lately. The last time I streamed some Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu, because I was just feeling Pokemon. I was in a Pokemon mood. I've been in a Pokemon mood a lot lately, but not Pokemon Go or Sword and Shield, because as we know, I talked about it and I reviewed it. Sword and Shield's DLC, not worth it. Not a fan. It's whatever. Dynamax adventures are cool, but that did not increase the longevity. But I did, however, besides playing Let's Go Pikachu, I bought a lot of games. So I'm going to go over the games I bought before we go into everything I played. So I go to this store here in San Diego. They resell. They got like video games, manga, anime, Blu-rays, collectibles, music, books, everything you think of. And I found sometimes I'll find like a gem, like a game. I'm like, oh, it's like $6, $7. Really, 6, 7? I haven't even seen or heard of this game before. So I got Sushi Striker, The Way of Sushido. I started playing it a little bit. It's actually a lot of fun. It's very entertaining. It plays almost like one of those like matching mobile games, but it's on the Switch. And then my crown jewel, because if you notice the shelf right here, besides the Master Chief half helmet, I love my Tokusatsu. I've talked about it constantly. And while I had it on the PlayStation 4, I couldn't say no to the price. I finally got Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes on the Switch. And it runs really good on the Switch because it PS4 Pro, beautiful game, smooth controls. It's so much better than like the Bat Ride games and like the Smat and the fighting games and like the Dynasty Warriors, like, you know, rip off games. Like it's a new type of game for Kamen Rider, and I love it. Like being able to play as three different riders, switch between the different henshin forms, like mid combo, so good. And on the Switch, it's delicious. So if you're like a Tokusatsu fan, you're a Kamen Rider fan or anything like that, I strongly recommend you get this game. I've beat it on the PlayStation 4, and now I'm going to replay it on the Switch. I'm probably going to stream it also. And I guess, you know, let me go, before we go on the other two games, to continue my trend of Tokusatsu, anime, whatever, I got this game, Override 2 Super Mech League. I only got it because it's the Ultraman Deluxe Edition. I love Ultraman. If you could see right there, all that Ultraman. And I have the figures laying down. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, my bookshelf's behind me with all my Ultraman Blu-rays and figures. So pick this game up. It's not bad. I played it a little bit. It's entertaining. It seems like it's online only, or you can go versus AI, but I haven't really figured out like if there's actually like a story campaignness to it, or if it's just like a mech arena type game. So far, it seems like it's just a mech arena type game. But controls leave a lot to be desired. I'm getting used to it. I'm pretty damn good at it though, so it's fun. It's something I'll dabble in a lot more later on. And that's it for like those, like the games that I was like hunting down. Like look, like well, I mean, Sushi one I wasn't really hunting down, but Kamen Rider and Override 2 I needed. And then so whenever I go out grocery shopping or just browsing, the main thing I try and find are my NECA real toy like Godzilla and King Kong figures, or like I'll look at the clearance section for games, and Walmart of all places. Like I don't go there often, and I usually go to like Target or Best Buy and stuff like that. But Walmart of all places had some good clearances, so I got Transformers Battlegrounds on the Switch, new. I didn't even open it yet to play it. $10, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I was curious about the game because it seems like it's kind of like a Valkyria Chronicles, XCOM, like strategy type game, and I was like, I love those games. Those are my guilty pleasure games, and it's Transformers. It was a no-brainer, so I had to get that. And then the one game from an anime standpoint, and a footnote here, a sidebar, if you will. I cannot find this anime to stream anywhere, so I'm gonna probably have to buy all the DVDs because I don't even think it got released on Blu-ray. But I got Captain Tsubasa, Rise of the Champion. I love soccer. I played soccer my whole entire life. I started when I was 5, played all the way up till high school, 2 bad knee injuries, 1 really bad knee surgery later, and I love soccer, and I actually love that anime. I watched it when I was a kid, and I cannot find it anywhere now. I'm going to probably have to get the DVDs because I don't even think it's on Blu-ray. And I was just like, how is this nowhere to be streamed? It's not on Funimation. It's not on Hulu. It's not on Crunchyroll. It's nowhere digital to stream. So I was like, how can you release this game and not allow the animes anywhere to like be streamable to like build up hype for it? It doesn't make any sense to me. And also, there's there's the original anime, and then there's like a reboot that came out a few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. They did a reboot of it with, kind of like they did with a lot of anime. And so I was like, I want to watch it. And I started playing it. It's great. Anime cutscenes. It plays like a more arcade FIFA, so less like simulated. But there's cool like charge ups and like super moves. It reminds me of Shaolin Soccer. If you ever seen that movie, one of my guilty pleasure favorite movies of all time, Shaolin Soccer. It plays like that, but anime, and it keeps its anime graphics, but they look so crisp and clean on the Switch. Because this game is also on Steam, PS4, Xbox One. I want it on the Switch. Most of my anime games, I've been getting them on the Switch now. But yeah, that's it for games I bought. So outside of Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu. The only real game I've had time to actually like sit down and play has been The Medium, because it's now on Game Pass. That was one of the games when they did the Game Pass showcase. They showed all the games. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows the Warhammer game and The Medium were the 2 games I lost my shit on the most, because I like horror games, and this gave me like Silent Hill vibes. And I played it. I haven't finished the game yet. I think I'm probably like halfway through the game. And I'm really enjoying switching between like the worlds, or like it goes split screen and you see where you are currently, and then you in like the underworld realm. Really smartly done. Like a lot of people weren't too fond of it when it first, dropped. I saw all this stuff on Twitter because I didn't get to play it yet because I was at work. Or no, I was not at work yet. Was I? I think I was. I don't remember. It's been a long week. And I was like, man, like this game looks so good. Like all these people are like, why are they so angry? And then you see the critic scores and this and that. And I'm like, see, this is more like it. And then I start playing it. And I'm playing it on Game Pass for PC because I have Game Pass Ultimate. It runs really good on PC. At least my PC anyways. Like it should run good on like any middle to top end, high end computer. You're fine with running it. It's weird that it's only on the Series S and Series X because the One X and One for Xbox couldn't handle it apparently, which I thought was weird because when they announced it and this and that, they hyped it up that it was going to be on the Xbox family of consoles, and lo and behold, that's not the case. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely I'm gonna finish probably the game over the weekend. Also, like I got the weekend off, so it's like I'm gonna catch up on a lot of things, read my comics, play some games, and since I briefly said it really quick, I briefly brought up the fact that I have my half Halo helmet, Master Chief helmet, because I actually bought some more collectible stuff. I bought, and I don't really talk about it, I guess, a lot on the podcast. I don't really show it off on social media, but we like Legos. Like, we got a majority of like the Harry Potter Lego sets and the Fantastic Beasts sets. So I picked up this Mega Constructs Halo helmet. And apparently it's pro builders because it's 414 pieces. And not gonna lie, it's actually nice. It's been fun. I find it really relaxing to build Legos, honestly. Like for me, it's like I decompress, just enjoy it, have fun, and I like how Mega Constructs does it because everything comes in bags and the bags are numbered. So then in the page it says, hey, you're gonna need bag 1 and 2 for this, or bag 3, 4, and 5, and it's like follow these steps, and then Voltron combine everything. And I was like, that's cool. But that's not all I got for Halo stuff, because I realized I want to start displaying my Halo collection, and most of my Halo stuff is back home at my mom's. Like I have the Halo 3 Xbox 360, I have the ODST one, I have the big statue from ODST, I have a Master Chief helmet, replica Needler, and plasma sword. I have a lot of Halo stuff back home, which, when you're moving across the country, you'd prioritize, and I left all that back home. So I'm definitely gonna have to get those at some point. But I did, however, pick up the pilot figure. Also, my place to go to pick up a lot of stuff is Target. Obviously, there's no more Toys R Us. One day, maybe. But I got the pilot, and then the detail on this, it's weird because from a boxing standpoint and everything else, this is from like Wicked Cool Toys. I got the Master Chief from the Spartan collection. They also have the Cat B320, Spartan MK7, and Spartan MK5B. And I love the detail on this. Like this reminds me of like the Hasbro like wrestling like Elite, or is it Hasbro? No, Hasbro's the Lightning Collection for Power Rangers. Then it's the Mattel Elites for wrestling. It reminds me of that for like detail, how you can change out the hands and this and that. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I haven't put them on display yet because I have to like move everything around on my shelves to make room for all my collectibles because it's very disorganized. I started organizing it at first, and then I realized I have way too much stuff of like different genres and different shows. Like I have a ton of Power Rangers. My Kamen Rider collection is not bad. My Ultraman is getting there, but then like my Hero stuff is just all over the place. Like you can see, like behind me, got both Blu-rays and all these figures, and there's even more that I need to put up. So I was like, I gotta get organized, or I'm just gonna have to start like cluttering everything in groups. So like keep all like the Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Toku stuff on one shelf, all my anime on another, and then Power Rangers for everything else, and then video game shelf. So it's like I'm still trying to get a lot of stuff organized from that sense. But that's it for games. My new collectible stuff I got, and my comic books, and so main topic stuff about keeping all how I keep all my stuff organized and displayed. You can't really see it. So in the video was, or obviously in the audio version, but a majority of my display stuff is BCW supplies. I have, the comic showcases for my signed comics because I just don't want them out. But a lot of my comics, like if I want my movies stood up and with invisible displays so you can't see that they're being held by anything, or my connecting covers I always put on the wall, but I don't like the bulky frame and border on a lot of display cases, so I use collector mount. Go check them out on Instagram, Twitter, just type in collector mount or collector's mount, and you'll find them. I tag them all the time in my Instagram posts, so you could always check out my Instagram and you'll see it. And yeah, so how it works is they're basically invisible. Like they're clear plastic, not invisible, but it makes the comics look like they hover off the wall. You can, and because there's no border on them, it's like a clip that goes on the wall and it like slides into the comic, so there's only that much space. Actually, I have one. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I have one right here actually. So this is one of them. So I use the 3M Velcro and put on the wall like this. And because of how the little track works, it's not that wide. Slide the comic in, and ta-da, you have it on display. But these actually fold, so you can adjust the height. You can go for, your graded comics, or you can fold them down so they're like a stand-up stand. So this folds down, like comes down when you take the bolt out, and then you can actually lean stuff on it, which is how I have some of my my Laserdisc movies like Lawnmower Man and the Sex. I collect horror films and horror memorabilia, so I have a lot of the horror like Laserdisc films, especially Stephen King ones. And so if I want them displayed on a shelf or anything like that, I put them in stand mode. If I want the Laserdiscs on the wall, which they're so big because of the size of records, I don't put them on the wall because it's just that's a bit much for me. That's like that takes up too much space, and for communal space, I don't want to be like, all right, I'm taking this whole wall and you can have that little corner over there. So I try and condense all my stuff to one area, which is why I relocated my Dead by Daylight poster that was signed by the devs from E3 in 2016, moved all my shelves around, everything else, because yeah, I just don't want to be rude. But yeah, that's I'm gonna do a video eventually like it's going over everything. And I'm definitely going to be doing an episode with a few of my friends who also collect comics, just because there's so many different ways to collect, and then going over pull lists and how you dictate what you want to get. It is tough to really have that conversation by myself, because then you're just getting my outlook and my opinion and how I do things, when there's the variety of how you can collect and display all of your comics, figures. You can get detolfs, bookshelves. There's so many options. So that's why there's no real main topic. It was just something I wanted to briefly touch on for a few minutes. And before this podcast episode ever, in the beginning I did say, hey, I was going to talk about some other projects. So the RSS feed for the review one is done. Like I said, I'm just working on the logos, and it's gonna be a Nerd Name Mark podcast presents, and it's gonna be either one shots or just reviews in the title. So I'm either gonna name it one shots or reviews. So if it's a one shot, it's like I'll take like a whole story and review it in one episode, instead of like every episode doing like one issue. I want to get it all done in one shot. Or I'm just going to do reviews, because then at least that way there it's like not just comic book related, because I do want to review movies, comics, video games, TV shows, especially with WandaVision. I haven't touched on WandaVision. Like, I cannot wait for the new episode on like tomorrow. Well, this is going up on Friday, so technically today, but I'm recording this on Thursday. So I'm actually really excited for that new episode. So it's like stuff I want to do there. Then another show that I hinted at in the beginning, middle of 2020, that I was working on, but it's going to be in seasons. So I'm going to record. So how the plan was, record a bunch of episodes, get them all really heavily produced, scripted, detailed. And then I was going to release like season 1 and then season 2, like an episode every other week or something like that. Season 1 is done, finally. And I believe I have 1 or 2 episodes left to edit, and then they're good for my little Explaining the Unexplainable podcast, which is going to be, it's not conspiracy theories. It's nothing like that. A lot of my friends are like, so it's going to be conspiracy theories. I'm like, no, it's no magic bullet or any other crap. No moon landing hoax. It's more cryptid based, which, as you know, is like, mythological creatures of lore legends, like the Mothman, Chupacabra, the Yeti, this and that, like cryptids, more like monsters than and creatures than anything. I may dabble on aliens a few times, because let's face it, while I was recording a lot of that, I went on an X-Files binge on Hulu, and next thing you know, I was on season 7, and I swear I started it like 2 days prior, but I guess it was like almost 3 weeks of me just like not realizing all I was watching was X-Files. So there might be some alien episodes, but that's coming soon. Got the logo being finalized on that as well. A friend of mine who's a graphic designer, we've been like just bouncing ideas off each other. I'm, drawing up templates, and I'm like, here, go. What do you think you could do with this? And then he's like, oh, well, it's trash. Throws it away. He's like, I got my own idea. Then he shows me what he's got. And I'm like, I don't really like that. Let's do this instead. So it's like back and forth, even though it's my show. But you know what? Hey, I don't mess with the creative process of an artist. I really don't. But those are the those are definitely happening. There's another show I've been working on with Scott, who was a guest for the Royal Rumble podcast, where we're a tokusatsu themed podcast. We've already got like, I think 4 or 5 episodes in the bag. No news or anything related. It's just us talking, like the all intro, going over our favorite stuff, and then we'll jump into more current things that are being talked about in news and released. Like I said, that's still being worked on. Like I said, I got 4 or 5 episodes recorded. Just got to edit them. I already did all the music production for the intro song, outro, because, copyrights, again, make your own, or use royalty free. But I was like, I'm just going to make my own, for it. It makes sense. So that's really for the comic podcast, or comic podcast, but just a podcast in general. One of my friends was joking that I'm basically starting my own podcasting network with my own shows. And I was like, to an extent, yes, but I love doing podcasts. If you listen to the very long episode, me and Chris, my old lead editor from Those Gaming Nerds, who has his own podcast and website now because I stopped writing, we talked about the evolution of us as, in the gaming industry. I started off as writing about video games in 26, or wow, I almost said 26, 2006. So it's been, about 15 years. And I, wrote for other websites and I started my own. We tried the YouTube thing, but we were kind of like, the timing was where YouTube wasn't where it was at. Just like when I started streaming wasn't where it was at now. And I was like, nope, I'm just going to continue to go to college and work my day job full time in my career. And I got out of streaming. And then, podcasting is what I do now for my content. Like I don't write anymore, this and that. So yeah, I have a lot of different podcasts and I don't want to talk about, everything on one show because it just seems weird and out of place. So I'd rather keep this just nerdy games, comics, movies, nerd pop culture. And then we have the tokusatsu, which is a really niche audience. Like a lot of people who probably play video games that don't even know what tokusatsu is, or they just don't care. Then, my cryptid stuff, everything's, separate. So yeah, a lot of content, and I'm really excited for it. Hopefully, this video came out good, or at least above average. Because I don't know, I'm doing it the first time, so I'm trying to like make eye contact with the camera because I don't really record videos when I do my podcast. But that being said, that's it for episode 69 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. Remember, if you go to anchor.fm slash ANNM podcast, you'll find links to all the different platforms you can find the podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, iHeartRadio. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just type in a nerd named Mark into YouTube. You'll find the channel. I hope you guys, subscribe to the podcast on your podcasting platform of your choice so you get notifications when a new episode drops. If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you guys subscribe to the channel so you can see more of these video podcasts. Let me know what you think. I'm going to be making some changes. This is the first one. Obviously, production value is very low and editing value is even lower, but I'm going to try and make it better. And then from there, I also have other videos here on the YouTube channel, unboxings when I get my Toku mail call. I do trailer reactions, video game reviews. I put Twitch VODs over here too because I do stream on Twitch. So you can go to twitch.tv/a nerd named Mark. Head on over to my Twitter or Instagram, just a nerd named Mark. Very easy, a nerd named Mark. Type that in. You'll find it. And there I am. So with that being said, thank you for listening and watching the newest episode of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm a nerd.